Okay, good to go. So we're going to add a query here, and we're going to add some data like that to save. So first of all, let's put an array, set it to an empty array, and then let's add some items to it. So the first thing I want to add is a row ID, which will be equal to this one we just did right there. So I will copy that and paste it here. Or I could always just move this to here. Then I will do this. This time I want to add a permission. Oh boy, I don't know what's going on with my computer here. Yes. So I just want a permission, and this one will come from the value because this one really is a permission. So maybe we can write that like that. Okay. That way if I copy, everything is moving so slow on my PC that I don't understand it. Anyway, so permission there, and then yeah, so when we add this here, it has these two things which we need. So let's create a query now. So we say the query is equal to, we are inserting. So let's do an insert into. What table are we inserting into? Let's check that again. And that's a permissions map. Okay, permissions map. Let's put some values like that. And that's about it. So here we want the row ID and the permission. So we're going to copy this into there and put full stops at the beginning like that. Okay, great. Very cool. Okay, so with this we can insert what we have, and that will actually do. Okay, so let me remove this and let's give it a shot and see what happens. So if I come back to this and let me just refresh, so we save these guys. So refresh and send. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here, but let's check our table. Okay, so there we go. We have our table that has saved everything properly. So this is nice. Let me just refresh this. I don't know why that is like that. Okay, now the thing is we can't see this reflecting here. And that's because we need to read from the table here to know what was selected and then bring it back. All right. So we need to read here. Now, instead of having to read all of them and sort them out, it's better each row of these comes with its own permissions that were selected so that we know which ones they are. So in this case, the thing we're using, the model we're using to read the rows is row. So where's the row model here? Models, and there we go, row. So we can just add a variable here. Let me just duplicate this a little bit. And this one, instead of allowed columns, just do after select like this, so that we tell it what functions to run after a select has happened. So in this case, we want to run get permissions. That's what we'll call the function. Let's put an underscore since function names can't have a hyphen. So I'm going to copy that and let's add the function here. Let's call it protected since we won't be using it outside of this. So protected function get permissions. Of course, we should remember to return data, and here we put data. So we are receiving data and returning it. Now this variable can be any name, doesn't have to be data. As long as you put the variable here, it will receive the data and then you have to return. As long as these two are the same, it's going to work just fine. So what we are doing is we are intercepting data. We grab it from here and then we return it. If we don't, then no result would be seen. So we want to manipulate it in transit. As it moves from here to there, we want to do some manipulation. So I just want to check to make sure that the data I'm looking for is present. So in this case, I'm going to say if data 0, which is the first item, and then I just want to know if, let's see here, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, so this this model reads from rows, the rows table. So let's see what's inside the rows table. So what we're getting is this. So what I need to get from here is the row ID, the ID of a row, and then I can go to the permissions map table and then compare the row ID, get every record that has this row ID, in this case these two, and then bring it back. So in here, what I'm trying to do is get the ID from row, like that. So I'll just say if not empty. I just want to make sure this is not empty, like that. Now I need to make sure I'm reading, yeah, this always reads from the row table, so that's fine. We didn't even, the only reason we're checking for this is sometimes the result is empty, so we don't want to start loading data from an empty data set. So here I just want a query, of course, and I'm going to say select all. In fact, I just need one column. I just need the permissions themselves. So just say select permission from permissions map. That's the table name, where the row ID is equal to what row ID we will give it, like that. We're not limiting one because there could be several results, but we just want the permissions column only. So here also we're going to say db is equal to new. Actually, this is we don't need to do this. We can use this since we're already in here, which is a database is already connected here. We don't need to instantiate it again. So here I can just say query, like that. All right. So this query, we need that result. So I'm just going to call it res, short for result, and I will put my query here. Now I need to put an array here because I'm trying to give it row ID as data, or I can just create the array right there and just say row ID and then give it a value. So that value we're looking for is in here. So let me paste that there. Now I won't put 0 there. Instead, I need to put, I need to create a loop here instead. So this should loop, because data, we're just checking the first record. If ID is good, then we move here and loop through the whole data set, because we know that if there's one item, that's good enough to create a loop. So I'm just going to say data. So we are looping through this data and grabbing a row every time we do so. So let me move here. So each row contains the result from the database of querying rows like this. So we want to just say, if a row is user, we go to the permissions table and check all the permissions that a user has and add them. Then when we come to admin, we do the same. So we go to the permissions map, get what we need. So in this case, if a result was returned, then let's put that result. I'll just say if res, like that. So there's a result. I want to add it to data. So I'm going to say data and then use the current key to add data to that. And then here I'll just call the thing permissions, like that, will be equal to the result. Okay. Now the result of this is a row that contains only one column called permission. I'm going to show you that shortly. So what I'm doing here, I'll do this a bit later. So this is enough. This should work. But instead of this this one here, we'll grab that from row, the current row, instead of just grabbing from the first row like this. This should work out just fine. So with this in mind, if I now go to admin, and this is the part where we read. So after this, that's what that function will run at. So what I'll do is I just want to see what's here. So I'll do show like this and show us that data and halt everything. So let's come back and let's refresh. Okay, permission map not found, so I have misspelled. There should be an S there. And let's refresh. Okay, this is what we get. Now let me put star here instead of just permission so that you see what's going on. Okay. Packets out of order. Okay, so what this is doing is it means it's looping back to itself. So there's an infinite loop going on. So whenever you see this PDO exception, packets out of order, just means there's an infinite loop. So what's happening is it gets the result, and then because I'm using query again, it checks to see the what's this? It loops again, because query also checks to see if there's a function I should run, then it runs the function again, and then inside the function it also calls query again, and then so there's an infinite loop going on here. So we need a way to solve this. What to do? Okay. Let me see if we can find another thing here going on. But when it was permission, it didn't do this. So why is that? I don't even understand. Permission. This works just fine, but not the other one. And why is that? I have no idea. Anyway, if it works, it works. So the point is this. If I remove this, so you can see what's going on here. If I refresh, you see that this is the normal row I get. There's an admin, there's user. Quite normal. But it doesn't tell us which permissions are allowed in each one of them. But if we do this, oh, I see why it's looping through. You see, when I say select all like this, when I put star, it retrieves all the columns from permissions, and permissions also has the column ID, so it makes it pass through here again. So that's why it creates an infinite loop. But if I do permissions like that, I'm grabbing just one column, then this becomes false because it won't have the ID column, and then it won't loop through here. So a good way to stop this infinite loop is to try and check for a unique column that is unique to that particular table, so that you know that information is straight from that table and not anywhere else. Another solution, there's another solution I implemented in a different project where I give each query an ID and then I check to see if it's the right query to loop through here, but that's beyond the scope of this video. So for now, we're just going to retrieve just one column for this particular time. So as you can see now, since I'm retrieving that column, if I refresh, you see this is what it gets us. It gives us permissions for this one. So you see this one, that's admin, has 2 permissions, but user has 3 permissions. But these are not very accessible because they are inside another array again, and then this is another object. So there's an object here, another object. So let's simplify them by just using array column. So here I'm just going to do this and say array column. Now what array column does is it grabs a particular column from many rows. So I'm going to tell it what column I want, which is permission, like this, and this is what we want to send here. So in this case, for example, we have this result, right? But if I tell it to just grab permissions, it will create an array just with this value in here. So you'll see the difference when I refresh here. Let me just refresh, and this is what we get. It's much simpler because inside this we just have an array that has 2 items, just the same as 3 items there. So now at least we have information on which now this may create an infinite loop again, depending on what's going on. Maybe not. We'll see if it creates a problem. We're going to solve it. For now it's fine. So here instead of just die, I'll remove that. Now we have the information we need. Let me refresh, and it's here. So the information is here. We just need to add it to this so we can see which ones of these should be ticked. So let's do that in the next video.